right, there we go. All right. Good night. Good night. Good night. Welcome to Fatherhood Talks. It's probably what we would consider, what do you call this? Probably call this, what do we call this? What is it called? What is it called? The holiday edition? It's next week, the holiday edition. I don't even know. But this is
the edition, yeah, because Christmas is Sunday.
Yeah, this is the pre-holiday edition. The pre-holiday edition of Fatherhood Talks, where we're going to talk about our topic today: who's going to save Superman? And this wasn't our scheduled thing for this wasn't our scheduled title for the day, but this morning I was on a radio show in New York and talking about male suicide. And I thought about it throughout the day, kind of conversation that I had with those professionals, the psychologists and myself and the other brother and the host. And I said, maybe we need to talk about this tonight as fathers. And so tonight we're going to talk about who saves Superman. And not so much, I know a lot of people will gear it to the young brother named DJ Twitch and his recent suicide. But I think that we need to have a conversation about, where we stand as fathers and what does that mean to us when we think about suicide. How do we handle suicide? What are we saying as a collective of fathers? Because I'm sure we have many different topics, and I thought it would be robbery not to kind of share that with people, because this brother was a father. He was a father of 3 kids, and that's something about. So again, I'm Ron Osborne Williams. I'm lassoing this together with the rest of the fathers. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we're going to get started on the topic.
Okay. So Thomas, all 4 years and father 2 and grandfather of 7. Two boys and 7 girls. Seven, 2 boys and 7, 2 boys and 5 girls.
Larry Jordan, father of 2, grandfather of 1. I want to say Merry Christmas to everyone. I'm not going to say Happy Holidays because, it's really Christmas.
Kwanzaa.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Landon Lightborn. I'm a father to a tribe of 7 young adults, 4 young men, 3 young women, 1 grand diva. I call her granddaughter. She's a grand diva in her own right. And it's always a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Donald Jones, divorced and father of 2, 13-year-old young lady, and just turned 12 years old young man.
You're muted, Rohan.
Good night, fathers. I'm a divorced father of 2. My name is Rohan Rodok. And as I always say, it's a pleasure being here with fathers and learning and teaching other fathers. Thank you.
that everybody?
Looks like it, yeah.
All
Dr.
right, that's everybody. Let's go. Let's go. Let's don't stop the show. All right, so I want to, and I guess probably, you know, when we're having this conversation, I think on the this morning when I was talking on that show, I said to the other panelists and I said to the audience that, you know, the intervention that we need as men, but really as fathers, is to recognize as men and fathers, how do we talk to other men and fathers about things like suicide? And when we do talk to them, are we going to be straightforward with them? Are we going to get from behind the mask that they wear? Because one thing, is, that people wear masks. And if we don't like get behind that mask, they can brush us right off and everything is cool. And I give you a better example. I was talking to another brother of mine, and I was saying to him, I had made this statement that said, hey, we was talking about the Twitch guy, DJ Twitch, and I said, well, listen, it's crazy, but if I committed suicide, what would you think about it? And then he was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I think that in his initial reference, it was almost like, yo, what are you saying? Hold on, don't say that. And I was saying, no. I'm not saying, I'm asking you seriously, as my friend, as my brother, what could you say to anybody? And how would you even be able to respond or deal with that if I committed suicide? The person that the person that you love, the person that you're around, people would say, and I thought about, how could you be so close to me and be so tight with me and not know? And that's something for us to think about. But sometimes it's because we also don't have these conversations. We kind of just, oh, you okay? Take another drink, dog. We'll be good. Let's puff another cigar, bro. We good. Don't worry. Cheer up. Let's go throw some dollars on some of these late night smoky places. Let's throw some dollars in there. We'll be good. And I don't think that is really making people feel. And I'm saying this largely because we know that a large majority of fathers, especially this season, will not be with their kids. They will not get to see them for Christmas. They will not get to probably be able to give them a gift or do many things. And it has to have some feeling on them. And so I'm thinking of the kind of trauma it could trigger. And, I put this I'm putting this out here so we can really have some dialogue about it tonight.
Well, Ron, I think oftentimes, and this is, I'm not the mental health profession in its existence, rather, or pretty much in its history. I think I'm more favorable towards the present day existence than I am the history, only because it's diversified. But I think most of the time it's very superficial in nature. And it talks, a lot of time it brings up discussions that it doesn't have the wherewithal to apply to sacrifice. So it'll talk about sacrifice, but it has no sacrifice in its history. And so it's usually used to sacrificing the patients as opposed to the practitioner actually facing the fact sacrifice himself. And so when I usually hear people talk about this, it's more pontificating, right? And so I think the profession itself, and again, I notice your profession, so I'm not talking specifically to you as a person rather, but I'm talking more towards the purpose of the profession that you work in. I think it's been historically great at naming problems than it has been at solving problems.
Mhm.
And so when you talk about this particular situation, then you have to come from a humanistic standpoint. And you got to understand that we're all built different. And so we're going to give inspiration in life different. And so how we suggest that one person could have intervened to save a life may not be how that person was built or actually born to do so, right? And so when we look at give Deion Sanders for a second. I mean, Deion Sanders is an athlete, a phenomenal athlete in his own right, NBA hero. Talking about Superman, he's an NBA. I'm not NBA, but NFL Superman. And so if he is an NFL Superman, you would think like, okay, this guy is just the typical jock, and that's it. But when you get to know him, Deion Sanders, the person, right? Then you get a whole new perspective on he's so much more. You understand? And that's it. And so when we're talking about you can't give something that you're not, right? And so he had to develop himself as a human being, right? And I'm talking about all of us now, we have to develop ourselves as human beings before we can give to another human being. And so to think that you can say something to a person that you may not even be equipped to say, and I'm gonna be honest with you, you can't train people to say it. Because my pastor said it best. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so if you don't care, right? And then you don't have a caring history or a kind history, or you're not interested in nobody that goes past your front door. You understand? Then what is your words worth? And we can't use a profession to justify that you're equipped to save somebody's life. And so I think I want to end with that statement my pastor did. I heard him say it. Again, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's the start of this conversation for me.
Also, we have to ourselves who we are, what we are. Before we can
Yeah, Elder Thomas. Elder Thomas. We're not hearing anything you're saying. All we're hearing is feedback.
Okay, well, I'll jump in until Elder Thomas fixes Wi-Fi. I think, when it comes to suicide, like Lionel said, everyone is different. We're all built differently, and we all have different priorities in life and things that are important to us. Some people value their job, some people value their family, some people value their children, some people value their clothes, some people value their car. It goes on and on and on. And I think based on those priorities, you can, a person will react a certain way if that particular thing is taken away. If you're quite a materialistic person, and I think in this DJ Twitch situation, I don't know the whole story, but from what I've heard, with that he was involved in that FTX scandal, and basically he had lost basically his fortune in the FTX scandal. And so what he did, that meant more to him than anything else. So he basically felt like his life was over. Now, if I would, if that is in fact the case, and I don't know if that's the case, that's just things that I heard. I'm wondering if, for example, he had a life insurance policy. I had $1 million in life insurance. I don't have no more money, so he did it. I don't know if he didn't have any more money, or if he said, "Well, I'm going to take my own life so that at least my family can live." You know, I don't know if it was anything else behind that. But my point is that I think that those types of things push us towards suicide when we lose the thing that's that we care about the most. So maybe we can start there.
Gentlemen, I would like to also add regarding this topic, suicide. That is, I always talk about the doors, the three doors to my daughters. There are some doors most people don't want to open. The door is there. No one wants to talk about it. No one wants to open that door. And suicide fits in one of those doors. It's a feeling, like a feeling of excitement, and to some degree, it's a feeling of being lonely, being by yourself, being in a maybe in a hole where there's no one to hold you. And keep in mind, suicide does not discriminate. And most men, I believe, even in Broad County here, they tend to stay in a hole by themselves. And what we have to look for, we have to know the signs, just like we know the signs for people who are driving fast or someone who's an alcoholic. We need to know the signs for someone who may be suicidal. It is a big topic. It's a big problem that is growing, and the best thing we can do is to reach out to someone when someone is in that area or is having that feeling.
Yeah, but Rohan, I think that the statistics sometimes show us that suicide is spontaneous. It's not something that someone is sitting around thinking about they're going to do, especially when it comes to men. When it comes to they listen. The guy gave a statistic that there was two populations that had the highest population of suicide. That was white men over 40 years old, and the next rate was young Black youth.
Right.
And when he shared that, and he said, "Well, did you ever think about how much they face in the society?" And it's funny because it's crazy. But when I heard him say it, the first thing I thought about is, why Black men over 40 not dead? Because if you make it through your youth, nothing can touch you. You're bulletproof for everything. You like a real superhero. So the idea is for them, they make it through their youth with no problem. They don't really start facing the kind of issues that we as young Black men face, young teenage men face, until they get to a certain status. So when we make it through that landmine of all of those things, the likelihood, even Lawrence, about even if we did lose all our money, right? We'll be like, shit, I was broke before. Listen, I raised that, I can raise some more. Shit, I'm alive. Because I think we also have a graciousness of our brothers who are not here. I live for every brother I know who's not here. I don't take it lightly that they didn't get to see and I know some good brothers who was took in too early. My man down in Miami, Corey, God bless him, good man, affected a lot of young people at that park with football in Miami. Taken too early, taken way too early for him to really make an effect. So listen, the idea that I have that I'm not, if long as nobody come and get me, I ain't taking myself out of it, because I want to live for Corey. I want to live on the idea of what Corey do, and I think that might be, and look, I don't got no facts of it. I'm just saying that when I listened to him say that, I thought it was ironic that young Black men and older white men are the highest population of suicide.
You know what? I think, and this one, I'm going to start using a lot of biblical references, since it goes deep in our history, and since it has gotten us from then to now. And since most people don't study the Bible anyway, I guess I can do some teaching on here. But I think the correlation between those young Black men and those older white men, one word I can think about is responsibility. And I'm gonna show you how that translates into scripture. And so responsibility, right? And so because young Black men haven't really developed into their responsibility, right? And they haven't really understand the embrace and the importance of it to grow into the purpose of that, right? To that responsibility stage, then that's one of their reasons for either not only just suicide, but you're talking about homicides as well, because they go hand in hand. And people don't understand that those are the same thoughts. And that's another science within itself, but I'll digress from that and keep moving forward on my original point. So here it is, the young Black man suffers from the lack of responsibility, right? And then the older white man who kills himself suffers from the loss of responsibility. You see it? So here the young Black man from the lack and the old white man from the loss, and they both end up with the same result. Now the question is why? Here goes where the Bible comes in and the scripture comes in at. The Bible says people, it says, oh, here it is. Where there's no vision, the people perish, right? You got to understand that. And so where there's no vision, the people perish, then that goes hand in hand because the responsibility is the vision. It's something to look forward to. It gives me purpose. And when that person, and particularly men, when we lose our purpose, because we're more purpose driven than anybody else. We were born to be purpose driven. And so when a young man don't see no purpose for his life, he's going to kill himself or kill somebody else. And then when an old man loses his purpose for life, it ends up in the same result. And so that goes back to your original point, which is your topic, saving Superman. Yeah, that's it for men. We have to understand what that purpose is, and it can't be superficial in nature. Talking about Superman and being superficial don't make you a hero either.
Right.
I always wanted to say that. It was a good time. But people indulging me. But at the same time, it's that purpose. And I think the connectivity, and this is where all of us can help, because you don't have to really be a therapist. And guess what? I love all my therapists. And particularly, I'm very impartial when it comes to my minority and my Black and African-American and Latino therapists, because again, I don't even want to go back to that soapbox, but I'm really impartial when it comes to that and biased when it comes to that, because I'm very favorable for that, because the sacrifice is there for you to become a therapist. So the empathy, you understand the level of empathy, and talking about not knowing how much you can till you care how much you know, something like that when I said that earlier. That's the empathy I'm talking about. You can't come into saving somebody's life if you never cared about people.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, people want to get into a profession with no real purpose.
No, yes.
And that's one of the real. So we can. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about this deep.
Hey, you want me to give you want me to give you the list, the amen list, because I can give. listen, I ain't lying. When it's funny because you say that because you'll hear all of these people not really have anything to say about somebody committing suicide. Clinicians, they don't have anything to say other than to try to make it that this person had a dysfunction, or this person was mentally ill, or this person was, and the person was not. The person was a person who was in some kind of social construction, as I would say, in a social construction that didn't fit theirs. And their choice was at that moment. It might not have been their choice the next day, but at that moment, their choice was, I don't want to be here no more. I'm not going to do this no more. And the problem with that is when men decide to commit suicide, the statistics show us that they don't pussyfoot around. They go into the Golden State Bridge and jumping off. They go into the top of the roof, jumping off. They're taking that 357 straight to the head. They're not doing any. They're not going in there. They're gonna lay in the bathtub and and just take a couple cuts on the wrist. They're not doing it because they want to be out of here. Jump off. They ride off a cliff. So, and because it is spontaneous, it's not something that this idea of I'm gonna sit down. You hear people. They was talking. Oh, some of characteristics of people giving you their stuff, they giving stuff to you, that's a sign. Shit, what I give people stuff all the time because I'm trying to get. So if I give you something that I like of mine, that means I'm suicidal? No, it's not. It means that I'm a giver. And being a giver doesn't make me wanting to give away my life. You know, and again, Lonnie, you hit something on the head, man, that just this pinging inside me is this idea of loss of responsibility. And a part of that responsibility falls into respect. Because if I have no responsibility, who's gonna respect me? And who's gonna give me accountability? You know, so you start looking at these things, and it may, oh man, that made perfect good sense. But I'm sure somebody say, these man, but listen, I'm telling you that listen, I'm ready to write that up right now. Boom, 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 put it on the platform, because that's a very that makes so much sense based on who we're talking about. And then it also goes into the point that's saying suicide is not monolithic, because the slaves that decided not to come to America and went back in the water, right? They said, nah, Doc, I can see this ain't gonna work right now, Doc. I'd rather just go on there. Or the slave mother who killed her children so they wouldn't be sold off. What's that? What's that called? What's that? She's psychopath. She mentally ill. There was a reason for what she did. Maybe you might not agree with her choice. You may not agree how she did it, but it was a purpose, you know. And so we have to sometimes think about, you know, a little bit more individualized why people may commit suicide, and if they do commit suicide. You know, I mean, I know the one thing I guess I want to hear you guys' point of view about this. And this is interesting because I talked to my class about this because, you know, and they were saying, you know, a lot of them young guys, the young men in my class, mainly because it was all men, most of the men, they're the ones who usually do all the talking in the class. They were saying that they felt that the guy, you know, the Twitch was selfish to do that to his children. And I thought to myself, because they're children, their context is, if my dad did that, look what he did to me. You know, and he didn't do it and I explained to him that, you know, it's so much more than that, guys. And you won't, it's not that clear cut. He wasn't, when this happened, he wasn't thinking, forget these kids, forget my wife, forget all of this. What he was thinking about was whatever he was dealing with right at that moment. Because let's take Larry theory. We can just take Larry theory for instance, if that's true, right? That's what people did in the what was it, the Depression? Ain't that what the Jokers did? Ain't that what every Joker did when it went to the Great Depression? Every one of them Jokers, they went to their office, pow. Every one of them jumped off buildings, jumped everything. So, and that was spontaneous because they didn't even know if it was good or bad or ugly yet. It was just an immediate reaction to something. And so, you know, you look at that, and I can't really get off that. Lonnie, you got me on that part about like responsibility, and how when we look at our young brothers who are out here doing what they're doing, they don't have no responsibility to nothing. So why not do anything to anybody at any time? Wow, man, wow.
Ron, gentlemen, think about this. We know one of the signs is feeling of hopelessness. There are many different signs. There are many different areas. We talk about folks who are probably going through a divorce. We talk about folks who may have some mental disorder. Hopelessness meaning I may go to jail, and I don't want to go to jail. I might have lost a job. So what I think gentleman Lawrence said it. There are many different factors that cause these issues. But we know for sure that whenever someone goes into that realm, if there's no one there to hold on to the rope, to pull them out of that feeling, or we don't recognize the signs, of course, that person will take their lives. But one of the things we should also look at as a divorced father is, as what Lionel said, what about those fathers who take their children's life? They take their lives and take their children's life. What about those men who take their girlfriend and their wife life? So I think that ties in what Lionel says. They're hopeless regarding the situation, loss of responsibility, but I'm also going to take that other person who are probably invested in and take their lives too. So I would ask, how does suicide tie in with taking someone else's life?
No, homicide goes hand in hand. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because if I could just raise a simple question. Because people say, oh, you thought about taking your life. I'm like, okay, let me just reverse the question. How many lives you thought about taking?
Right. Right.
Or better yet, let me just put it in very layman's terms. How many people you felt like killing sometimes?
Right. Listen, Lionel, you're not lying. Listen, Lionel is not. Listen. And if we can be honest, no, stop for 1 minute, Lionel.
Okay.
If we can be honest with ourselves, the human being, and if we are in tune with what we are and who we are as a human being, you have thought of killing people. You see it in little movies sometimes, and they show the person killing the person, and they're sitting there, because that is realistic. That's not that. I think that is a sign of being a well-adjusted human being, when you can have a thought about something and realize, well, that's what I want to do, but that's not acceptable in society, so I'm not going to do that. But there is, I think, when we talk, what Lionel is kind of getting at is, there is some people who they are now at a point, they are already at the tipping point that they can't come back from that. The trigger is the tipping point. It ain't just a trigger, and then they say, let's look at it. It goes from the trigger automatically to the tipping point, and they go right at that moment. Boom.
But with that being said, Ron, what you saying, suicide is spontaneous. It's spontaneous to us, but the person been thinking about it for a while, suicidal. We just don't see that they've been thinking about it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but we all, connect. We all think about suicide. The object that this person is that it has become to the main. It had come to the front of their brain and say, "This is real. This I actually am feeling so much of this way that I can." Because suicide is in every one of us. Anybody sit here and say they haven't had a suicidal thought, then you need to go to the doctor and get checked, because we have your brain not working, but it's something inside us. If it's our faith, if it's our hope, if it's a commitment we've made, that's what stops us from carrying out these things. But it's in us. I mean, we always say people are monsters, right? But I can't see them as monsters. I don't see no human being as a monster, no matter what they did, mainly because I can, as Lionel could say, I could empathize, and I probably could justify in myself how I could think to do what they had did. And that's a really messed up thing that somebody might say, that's crazy to say, but I'm a human being just like they are. And I could see in my own mind processing how some of those things could happen. But I have some control over my mind that I don't do those things. I mean, I'm not going to do them because I have some reason. And then sometimes the people don't have any control. And they, as I say, they snap. If you snap, you snap. That's why you can go to the court of law and get off on a snap. You get a good enough lawyer, you get off on a snap. You snap. You came in, you seen your woman in the bed with her and the dude, and you had the gun on your hip. You didn't even think about it. You just pop. And then you call the police. Say, oh my God, I can't believe I did it.
Well, you'll get less time, but you ain't gonna get off. But you'll get less time.
Right.
There we go. Our resident lawyer is gonna clear up my letting people off on murder. So okay.
Yeah, Ron, I like what you mentioned about the word control. We live in a world where people are fighting for control and power. I believe the ultimate God has that. And look how you mentioned that control. We see it in relationships. We see it on the job. We see control over kids. And if many people were to think, stop a second and think about control. You just mentioned it. I've lost control, and I want back that control, and I'll do anything I need to do to get back that control.
Mhm.
As a divorced father, I was told, and I can't say that someone wish I was dead when I was advocating for my children. The person said, "I wish you were dead. You shouldn't be here." So no, talk about control and power. Advocating for your child, and someone is telling that they wish you were dead. And really, realistically, it's not wish you were dead. I wish you would disappear. You're holding on. Walk. So I would say that control and power, be very careful of those signs, because control and power, and love too, because I can love you so much that I'm taking you with me. You're not staying.
That ain't love. That ain't love. That ain't love.
No, it's a form of.
No, it's a form of
Think
control.
so?
I think it's more of a form of control.
Of control. I'll
Control,
agree
not
with
love,
that.
but control. I don't think it's some, because Rohan here, and it's funny because when we was talking this morning about how people felt about people committing suicide, right? You just said it and triggered what I thought was I was gonna say, but I left it alone. Is what about when people want dads to disappear, be dead? You know, you talked about this dad committing suicide and killing himself, whatever. But you know, there's a what do I call a prism of that. On one end, the person is upset that you committed suicide and gone, but another person can be happy that you got killed and that you died.
Oh.
Right? So you look at that. So this idea of death is subjective. It's very subjective. You know,
That is true.
Oh.
Because that person's death could bring opportunity for someone else.
That's right.
You know, because they're no longer in the equation. So the door has been open for someone. It could have been, whether it been somebody who was there at his job, who was, he was, their boss, and they were waiting for an opportunity to be promoted. Now he's dead. Are you happy about that in that moment? Not necessarily, but then you think about it. Oh, now I get my chance.
That's
So
right.
even in that person's death, there is someone out there who is, maybe not necessarily happy about the death, but they see the death as an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
know that
Go ahead.
You finished, John?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Everyone has a tendency, I know I do, to blame social media for everything, especially when it comes to our young children. But I think what Lionel said was so important in regards to a vision. And, how do our young people even capture a vision? Most of the time, it's not through their parents anymore, not most of the time, because half the time they don't listen to us. What is it really through? Their vision is normally captured through social media and that social construct, that's been put before them. Unfortunately, that social construct is not real. If you look at Instagram, everybody looks happy, everybody rich, everybody got it going on. That just can't be true. But I think that many of our children and us, and in some cases as well, we're sucked into that, and that becomes our vision. That is, I want to be like them. Whether it's popular like them, whether it's wealthy like them, well, it's well connected like them. We construct this vision, and what happens when, first of all, you're dealing with a false vision, and secondly, you find yourself not able to accomplish that goal, or even in some cases, even get near it. What do you do then? Now your vision is destroyed, okay? And now you have no vision. So what do you do from that point? I think in that case, some people chose to just commit suicide. It's over for me since I can't accomplish what I want to accomplish in my life. My life is basically over already.
You know, Lawrence, a quick one on that. I teach in a class that stress, which is used in most people say, when I ask some question, they say stress is the main cause for heart attacks and so forth. But one of the real reasons is that many people have high expectations. And their expectations are high, and the reality, I think Ron has mentioned it before. I think Ron and I talk about check your wallet. You remember that one, Ron? Mm-hmm. If you check your wallet, you see reality, but your expectations are so high. What happens? You remember that, Ron, right? So what happens is the expectations and the reality, and in that space, there are many things that happens, both to children and adults. Because as you said before, many people put on a facade and looking happy, and the society itself wants you to put on that facade. The society, you need to be happy. You can't be sad. That's something to think about. I like that, Lawrence.
But here goes another Bible study. I told you I'm gonna use a lot of scripture today. So, and I think, and I'm a man, I'm a black man, and I can advocate for this particular white woman because she does an excellent job using the Bible to convey some very therapeutic and practical strategies when it comes to changing your mind. I think it's Joyce Myers. It's called The Battlefield of the Mind. Very popular book among Black and white women, across the spectrum, old and young. But I think what we have to do, and way before social media, soap operas in itself have glamorized, right? And I'm gonna be honest with you, not so much social media and not even so much media, but just the whole movie industry have glamorized both suicide and homicide. And I'm gonna tell you how they did it. My grandmother, rather, used to be a very avid a watcher of soap operas. Well, like The Live, General Hospital, the night when we used to watch Dynasty. And so, in all those, they always had this running thing that where people have been, it was always called a hospital scene. Hospital scene was where the person was like in a coma or on their dying bed. And at that particular point, their character came that much more important because every week you just on the heels, on the edge of wondering if that person, it's like almost that person life being in jeopardy made that person, his character or the whatever role he played in that show, it made it go up just by the simple fact that he or she almost died. And so the person they may have had conflict with when they was alive tend to realize that they love them more now that they're in a coma. That's 1970 so far. And so I don't really I can't blame social media if I got a history, right, of people romanticizing tragedy, right? You can just, you want to solve a problem in society, you just kill your way out of it. You understand? As long as you can find a reason to justify you killing your way out of something, and you kill your way out of it. And so what we did, what TV did, it romanticized both homicide and suicide. And so because it have done so well over the last 50 years, notice how the amount of homicide, both homicide and suicide, actually elevated. It's because anytime, remember I told you that vision? That's what it's called, television. And so it depends, that television to everybody individually. And if you can rationalize a reason to kill somebody or rationalize a reason to take your own life, that's an intimacy everybody have to deal with individually.
Right on.
Television. Man, I've never even looked at it that way. Television. We're gonna tell you a vision of what your life could be, maybe, or should be. And if it's not, and this is how it goes down in your life. I've never looked at it till he just said that particular phrase and broke it down like that. And I agree with you on that, Brother Lionel. Unfortunately, like you said, the TV has romanticize homicide and suicide, whether it be we are down with following the gangster, and supporting and wanting to follow who Scarface is, become the Scarface of our neighborhood, of our hood, or we want to end up being, sadly, one of these people that decide that it's best to move on with life and end that tragedy, or in some cases, for some people, with life insurance policies, it may be better that they're no longer there so that their families can receive that blessing. It's funny how, when we think about that Superman and bringing it back to the topic of the night, because the world expects us to be that guy. A lot of times I was a young lady I dated many moons ago. One thing she would always say to me, never tell me you don't know. If I ask you something, don't tell me you don't know. Tell me you'll find out. Because if I don't know and you don't know, then the both of us lost.
Mhm.
So I need you to always, either if you don't know it, tell me you'll find out. That's the Superman syndrome. Because at the end of the day, we're the head of the house, right? So how do we go from, as the head of the house, are we then morphed into this Superman because we're the head of the home? Or are we still a man who just happens to be expected to be the leader? And in being so, do we not have any frailties? And I think that's what happens. So when we social media and on television that everything is good, they don't allow us as men to, society doesn't, the social construct we live in doesn't allow us as men to be vulnerable.
Elder Thomas.
Johnny, you sound like Elder Thomas, right?
That's Elder Thomas.
Johnny in his car.
Yeah, you guys breaking up.
Elder Thomas. Hey,
That is not me. That's not me.
That's right. That's right.
I definitely agree with Johnny, and especially when it comes to that Superman complex, I also call it the Jesus Christ complex. First of all, you got to realize that Superman came from another planet. He wasn't even one of us. So he was different from us. And so he could do things that we could not do. And I always tell people, I argue with people all the time about this, especially when talking about Bible verses, is that when it came to Jesus Christ, people don't realize, well, they said, but they don't believe that Jesus Christ was God, number one. And secondly, what people don't understand is that Jesus Christ could not die. And what I mean by that is the only reason that you have death is that the wages of sin are death. Jesus Christ never sinned, so he could not die. That's what people tried to kill him all the time, but they couldn't. They could have thrown him off 10 cliffs and he couldn't die. He just walked back up because there is no death. My point is that we are not those people. And the quicker that we understand that we are not those people, as much as we think of people tell us that we are those people, that we're when we find out that we're not those people, then we're broken, and many times broken to the point of suicide.
Yeah, I wanted to just touch base on a part of that when we were talking about one of the factors. And I was watching another thing today, and they were asking some young ladies who are like women who I think they were in their like mid 30s to 40s. And they were asking them about getting married and about men and how much money men should be making to get married to them. And it was something I continue to keep coming to, right? And some of these women were saying like, first let's start, they're talking at a younger age. They were talking about like 28-year-olds, like from 22 to 28 years old. to get married to them, to be married to them, he needs to be making like $600,000. You know, one, you know, that's the one that was, you know, 100,000 to $200,000. And so when they was going through this, you know, the interviewer was just letting them tell how much money they think the man should make and this and that. Then they went to the next age, you know, and when they told the young ladies what the average guy made, the women seemed like that was unbelievable. Like that can't be, because, and I realized as I watched that is because obviously you must don't work. Listen, maybe you don't work. I don't know. Maybe you don't work, or maybe you don't know, because I know many women who know exactly how much money we make every day. They're not these women here. And I think about that kind of pressure that may be being exerted on men. So forget about what the you know, being a Superman, just to be a regular man, what the expectation may be for you. And then what happens when you do give all of that? In some instances, what are you getting in return for going out here and make, like what I would figure, making $200,000 a year? Listen. When they gave the means for these jobs, how much men make, listen, the average guy of 27, 28 years old, the average medium is $40-something thousand, $40,000 to $45,000. The next, when they got a little bit older to about 50, 37 to 50, that was from that next number, 40-something to about $80,000. So when you are in these realms and these unrealistic ideas, and I think that this is a big point of, we have a system that puts so much value on fathers being financial providers that it removes us from being anything else. And our whole focus becomes, the way I prove this is to have finances that almost is rigged, because you can't get those finances. So we almost need to be telling, hey, let's trick the code. Make your $60,000 a year and make sure you do everything else for your kids and for your house. Because the reality is, we have to begin to trick the code, because we don't live in Lawrence Day. We don't live in Elder Thomas Day, when their wives couldn't get jobs, couldn't make big money. You know, you was the sole provider with the sole money, and y'all lived on what it was. That's not the world we live in today. And it's very scary for many men to even, I think, acknowledge that. I think it's a scary thing to even acknowledge and accept that this world has changed financially for us, but it hasn't changed in the idea, the construct saying that we should still be providing all of that. Mm-hmm. That it's almost impossible. Listen, there's no way, if my girl makes $80,000 to $100,000 a year, and me over here servicing the community, you know, a servant to the community, I'm only making, you know, 45 to 60. Yo, there's no way that if I'm insecure about money, that we're gonna make it. Or I'm even gonna be able to make it in this world. But I don't focus my world on money. I focus on the work that I can do as a servant leader.
Well, Ron, I think too many times, particularly as men, and particularly being the head, or situated as the head, if you're the head, you're a man. First of all, you need to be in control of your narrative. So I would tell any man, first of all, know your vision. If you know your vision, you know your narrative. And I can tell you, any woman, she can respect your vision. I don't care how much money you have and not have. I'm used to dating women that made more money than me. That was a no-brainer, because people like, it's your confidence. I'm like, no, it's my conscience, it's my vision. My vision is my conscience is my vision. I project what I want, and I can tell you, I'm like, listen, I was existing before I met you. I'm pretty sure I'm going to exist after.
Right.
But I think most women, and the women, particularly the women you talk about, not most women, so I'm going to take most women out of it, and let's talk about the women you're talking about. Let's just create something new right now. Let's create a new narrative for those types. Let's call that the Mona Lisa complex, right? Now, what is the Mona Lisa complex? First of all, the Mona Lisa complex is a very beautiful woman, or the picture or a painting of a beautiful woman who sits on the wall by herself all her life, right? Beautiful, expensive, alone. You understand? And so while you can earn some things in life, you're going to earn everything that comes along with that Mona Lisa complex. And the older you get, the less valuable relationships will get to you. And so if you never value relationships, don't expect on getting the outcome of one. Because you can't just think you're going to go ahead and acquire something you never admire. So if you don't admire it, you will never acquire it. That really rhymes because I just feel like rhyming. But nevertheless, I digress on that. And that's the reality. Yes, if that's what you want, and I think Rohan was speaking about expectation. Correct. Nothing wrong with expectation. I have expectations too. Men have expectations too. I wish you would look 20 all your life. What you gonna do when you don't? And so, yes, if you're going to put that 6 figure on me, I'm going to put those 2 figures on you and make sure you are 26, 34, 26, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because men have expectations too. You understand? So I'm like, my style go, and particularly, and this is a male privilege, unfortunately, because of the relationship ratio, right? The companionship for men and women, the older women get, the higher the ratio get for them not getting somebody. But the older a man gets, the higher the ratio is for them to get somebody. You understand? I may need 200,000 a day, but the time when you're 28, by the time you turn 38, you understand? I can buy you by $2 on. You understand? Because, and I'm not doing, oh, you insensitive. I'm not being insensitive because insensitivity breeds insensitivity. And so if we're going to put a logic out there, I'm like, okay, good. I hear what you're saying. Now, are you going to always look this good after the babies? And if not, do I have a right to trade you up? Just based on you looking your physicality. Since you want to talk about my financial act, my you know what I'm talking about. And so I think when it comes to narrative, as a man, when you're in tune with your vision, you will be in tune with your narrative, and you will be able to convey what you need to convey, whether they respect it or not. But a woman will respect your vision and your ability to function and exist proudly and powerfully in who you are. And that's what most women attract to the most.
Like that. You know, to respond to that, you know, as a single male who's dating, when I meet most African American women and I hear similar scenarios, how much money do you earn? What kind of job do you do? And then when I'm kind of a numbers guy, I say, well, what's your credit? You guys probably hear me say this before. And credit actually means your character. So we, you know, folks have these high expectations, but when I ask the question, I say, okay, let me see your debt. How much debt do you have? And I'm seeing $50,000, $60,000, $100,000. I'm like, no wonder you need someone with $200,000 because you're in a big debt. And then I ask the next question: are you servicing the debt? Well, I'm not servicing the debt. So if I come to the equation, if I come into the equation, how's that going to work? So we have to be able to have these talk or dialogue regarding money, because money is like the blood to some relationships, not all, some. And we have, as men, we have to recognize that these issues are not going away. It will always be around us, and we have to have open dialogue to discuss it. And as I like what you just mentioned, the rose will fade away. So there are many. It seems culture. It could be culture. How daughters are taught to look for guys. There are many things that need to change. Many things that need to change, and we need to put the work in. Many people don't want to do the work. Many people want someone else to do the work, and it's a big problem.
Well, Rohan, and I bring it back, point the finger back at us. We have to do the work as fathers. We have to set the value. We have to set the morals. We have to set the standard for what we want our children move beyond. You know, I mean, listen, you know, having girl children, girl stepchildren, you know, one of the things you want to be able to talk to them about is what to really look for in a man. There's no father telling a daughter to say, hey, look for a man who got a lot of money. You know why he ain't gonna tell his daughter that? Because a man who have a lot of money will do anything he wants to your daughter. You can pretend like he won't, but one of the number one factors in domestic violence is to have financial control over them. So if they don't work and they living pretty, they a housewife, they ain't doing nothing. Shortly after that, anything else can happen to them because they have no means to do anything. The man move them all the way out to Portland, Oregon. Y'all living for a lot of that. The man that move your daughter all the way to Portland, Oregon. She live in a big giant house on top of the mountain. She ain't got no driving license. She ain't got no car. She got a driver to drive around. She ain't got nothing because the man taking care of everything. A fairy tale turned into a nightmare. You know, so it's something that comes with that. I would never tell my daughter look for a man with money. I say look for a man with integrity. Look for a man that's similar to me. That's what you should be looking for anyway. You know.
Ron, you said the word fairy tale. And I think, again, we have to stop sometimes and land the plane. Listen to the word you just said, fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
When you break the understanding of that word fairy tale down, you know what it equates to? Magical lie. You understand? So,
I like this one.
fairy tale, magical lie. And so I think, again, we just haven't owned our narrative because we're afraid to own our understanding, particularly historically, because we come from where we come from and we exist here like we exist here. But the fact that I get on here and I gotta give a special God bless you and thank you to you guys to just, because half of this stuff I say on here, I don't think about it until I actually get on this platform. You would think I've been rehearsing this stuff.
Right.
It's inspired. You understand? You guys bring this stuff out of me. And that's and you know what? And that's the key to saving lives.
Yes.
Inspiration. Inspiration is one of the major things. I mean, you can be surprised how you talking about, I'm a Christian, so I know about salvation, and we have the power to bring people back from the dead. And people think that, oh yeah, just as mean physical death. No, that's dead thoughts, dead feelings. But you can't take that for granted and think bringing a person back from the dead is one thing. It's not what you call it, Ron?
Monolithic. Monolithic.
Yeah, it's not monolithic. Bringing somebody back to the dead is a whole variety of things. You could have just smiled at somebody and stopped them from committing suicide or going out and committing homicide. I've seen videos where I think it was a guy went to shoot up a school or something, came in there with a gun at a school, and the black lady talked to him, and then she started praying for him. You understand? And it was never used. As much it caught media attention, but it was never considered as a means for trying to de-escalate something, even though it worked. Why not? You understand? Why not? We have to ask ourselves, why are we always devalued and got to listen to you guys who have a history of doing nothing but being culprits of the very thing you're trying to cure? And so I'm not going to be very nice when it comes to things that are true. And I'm not going to deprive myself or deprive my culture, deprive who we are when I see what they call strategies and systems and just simple kindness that works. I'm sorry. I'm getting on my soapbox.
No, well, sometimes listen, we got enough water here for everybody to take a bath. Don't worry. Listen, so you can get on all the soapbox you want, because I think that you said the most crucial part, and I hope if anybody, when they watch these videos and they watch us talk, that they see the component that what we're doing. You think I come here and plan? I think like you said it clearly. I come here because it is exactly what you say it is, a fatherhood think tank where I can be around other positive fathers. Maybe even sometimes we have fathers that might not be that positive come in. We don't know. But it's kind of hard, like you just said, like the man wanted to come to the school and shoot the school up and do all that. But once the lady start praying and talking to him, it's hard for somebody to go opposite of what everybody else got going. If we on one mindset, it's hard for somebody to come in here and say, I don't care about none of that. Fuck this, that's not that person. Not the person will come, but by the end of the night, guess what he's gonna be saying? You know, I agree with you, Lana. Rohan, you got a good point there. They could have came adversarially, but they will come around because when we begin to open up our brain, this is important. Early childhood development shows us exposure makes us smarter. It activates our brain cells. So we come here Tuesday, Wednesday nights and do nothing but make our brains bigger, I think. That's what I think, making our brains bigger. But in a positive way of thinking of the change that fathers, like you said, need to take the narrative. We need to take the narrative and set it the standard. Stop letting everybody come up with these research projects, these ideas, these things, because they all have some ulterior motive a lot of times to set the tone of who we are. We are just trying to set the tone of who we are to live, to survive. So the ulterior motive is life and death for us, not a research grant from Colgate or something like that. We are trying to actually live, you know, and that's important. People won't see it that way. They'll say, "Oh, you got to do the research is important." Listen, I'm all into the field, but I've read enough research. I've seen enough statistics to know that I live with real people in the real world. This body right here lets me know that when I go and read some statistics and read some things, then let me come back to real people. Because I'm trying to figure out where y'all got these people that gave y'all these quotes and these things. Where they at? Because I'm talking to real everyday men, some rich, some poor, some married, some divorced, some we got a what we call this? We got a great subsample of fathers. We ain't got a narrative subsample. We got all kinds of fathers on here. And when we have these conversations, all the fathers' points of view get to come out. And that's important. It's important also for our own mental stability. You know, we face stuff every day. I'm telling you, I'll be very honest with people. I have not faced any stress and strain since start doing these groups and working with fathers. The kind of stress and strain I used to be stressed on or whatever, because I know that eventually I'm going to get to go in here and be empowered and also be justified about what I got going ain't really all that bad, though. You know, listen, I might not have. So these are important things, and it goes right back what Larry used to say, that iron sharpening iron. But we don't got those kind of setups no more. You know, the iron sharpening iron, these guys, I know they got these little programs out there where the guys go and run up and down and jump in the mud and do 1,000 push-ups, and then they say we are strong men, and that's cool. But how much are they getting what we getting in this think tank here? Not to put anybody else stuff down. I'm just saying how much you getting from like we getting in this think tank. Because it ain't just somebody telling us, we telling ourselves. We getting the ideas, and it's cultivated. It's like we come every week and bake up a gumbo stew of fatherhood. Because we got all kinds, we got all, you know, and again, we welcome all. Listen, anybody can come on this platform at any time. And we know that because you don't see a lot of listen, last Wednesday, we had 30-something people in the platform, in the private meeting, 30-something fathers. And we was having a really good conversation, really good, strong conversation. With even a more diverse crowd. We had some real diverse brothers on there coming from on the spectrum. We had a spectrum that was all around the world. So, I just say to people who are watching, listen, like and subscribe, join us. Again, we just doing this all just and I say that because I watch a lot of YouTube, watch a lot of stuff. People say, oh, drop us a cash app, pay the. Listen, that's not what we're here for. We are here and I think that when you do that, you lose some of your genuineness. Because we don't sit around and plan, sit down, me and Lionel and Rohan sit down and say, well, what we're gonna talk about today, we're gonna put these things and we're gonna, Rohan said that. So you can say that out loud so the people say it, know it, Rohan. What we gonna put together today, blah, blah, blah. We don't do that. We bring a topic and everybody, that's the first time we hear it and we go from there. And that's genuine. That's not staged like the Broward County School Board.
No, yeah, that's not drama.
I just had to throw that in there. They used to make me mad. They come in the school board meeting, act like they was making a decision. They had already been in the back, made a decision that they wasn't voting for none of that stuff. No people was getting anything. Then they come out there, I gotta go to the bathroom. We don't do that. What the topic is here is when we first all see it and when we all walk and talking. We walk and talking. Okay, that's enough. I feel like my voice getting
Go ahead, Ron.
Because I was about to bring it up. Yeah, that number. The new number for suicide.
Yes.
988.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ron.
Oh, all right. Well, just to go back, suicide is on the rise. If you go back from 2000 to 2010, suicide is going up. And again, we are advocates for children. We're advocates for life. So 988 has been a new number that they've used to make it, most people have a cell phone. I think everyone at this point to a great degree. And hopefully some of our teenagers will use these numbers. But if you know of anyone who may have those thoughts, 988 is people are trained to help.
Hey, listen, Rohan, let me say this. Forget if you know people call yourself. It's okay. Go and talk to them. It's okay. Tell them that, listen, that's what I thought today. And I say that to say that we waiting on somebody else to do what you can do for yourself. Self-care is the most important. Self-care is the most important advocate against suicide. Let me say that again. Self-care is the most important advocate against suicide. Because if you go to your self-care, then you'll be saying, oh man, I don't want to do this, or I need to think about why I want to do this. You're doing your self-care. Sometimes we do a lot of depending on other people to see somebody didn't see the signs. See, you know the signs yourself. You know how you feel. And if you ain't feeling good, call 988. I'll go to somebody that's genuine, who, as Lana said, care about you. Somebody who is your people, because the first thing they'll say is, let's talk about it. And that talk might just change the whole dynamic. Because you don't need, listen, I'm not gonna tell you go to no therapist for no goddamn suicide. Because by the time you get an appointment with them, you already done did it. You know who your ace boon coon is. You know who your number one person is. And don't leave it just to that person. I say this all the time. Don't leave your phone call to one person. You got enough people. Call that stranger. Call that stranger that you know and say, hey man, what's up? And he'll say, well, what's up? What's going on? Hey man, I was just thinking. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, he'll have that conversation with you, because it's different. It's different. It's not how we think it is. You might call all our friends on. I did a little experiment on Saturday. Saturday at 8 o'clock, I called all the people that I thought would answer the phone. At 8 o'clock, I called all of them to see if they answered the phone. Strange thing is I forgot, and I left the phone in the car with the guy at the car. And they did, I said, none of these people called back. But you know what? I was wrong, because I had the wrong phone, and I had my other phones and not that phone. When I came back to the car, every one of those people had called me back.
Hey,
Even
I'm
some
sorry.
of them.
Ron. Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, you like.
Okay. Oh, no. Now, I just wanted to give some more Bible study when it comes to this, because we were talking about, I think Ron, Larry said about the not just but the Jesus Christ syndrome. Let me be clear. There's a lot of powerful men in the Bible, that's including Jesus himself, that had those moments. Jesus was dealing with some, and you could say some suicidal moment, but I'm like, no, he was getting ready to face a homicide. So he even had to talk to God, his own father, about the situation. He was getting ready to go to the cross. And so when you study that part, you start to understand the mental health of Jesus Christ at that particular stage in his life. Then you move on over to the guy at the Brook Cherith. Was Elijah? Elijah, and he thought about suicide. All because, and guess what the woman said? This man that killed 100 prophets. Killed 100 prophets. He got the power. Literally, this is a powerful man. He's a powerful prophet. Just wiped out a whole bunch of false prophets, right? This woman talking about sent a message. Literally, remember I told you television? She sent a messenger to tell him, oh, by this time tomorrow, I'm gonna make you like you just made them 100 prophets. And so what he did, they said, the Bible said he ran for his life. Here's a man who just killed the whole 100 false prophets, and then he ran for his life. And then when you talk about Samson, and you can't get no stronger than Samson in the Bible. Here it is, Samson, he committed suicide. And so what you have is this misnomer, this spiritual, biblical, scriptural ignorance, with this misnomer saying, oh, you know what? If you could commit suicide, you're going to go to hell. When the Bible doesn't say that. Just nothing in the Bible says.
Right.
People just assume that it say, I'm like, no. And so I'm going to be honest with you. The Bible says one more thing. He said, my people suffer for the lack of knowledge. And so when we understand the science of people suffering for the lack of knowledge, it doesn't mean because you're book smart. No, it means you're just relationship dumb. And so I think we ought to learn more about the people we're with around us, and particularly the person in us. And I'm done. Right before time.
And with that, we're gonna let Lana go ahead and take that, because that was a good wrap up, Lana. I think that you get, because I think it was important that it wasn't said and it needed to be said about. I know we had people who say you're going to hell if you commit suicide, and I think I'm glad that you brought it up because it wasn't talked about tonight in that kind of our conversation. Again, if
perfect
you are,
ending, man.
Huh?
Perfect ending. Ending.
Right. If you are interested in joining us tomorrow night, we are having private father meeting. You can see the link in the chat of this. Look, go into the chat of the actual video for tonight, and you can come on and join us for the fatherhood private talk. With that being said, I want to thank everybody. If I don't see you tomorrow, have happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and a Happy New Year. What happened?
I was gonna say, is there another one? Is that?
I'm just making sure. I want to get everything in there because I don't want. I like to be multicultural, as you would say. I definitely don't want to become anti-Semitic, but that'll be another topic next time. But so make sure we get everything in there. And again, I want to thank God. And as we knowing that this is not our last show before the end of the year, I'll save the lessons for how great this year was until next show. But I'll see y'all here again next week or tomorrow night for Fatherhood Talks. Thank you and good night.
Don't call your woman no Jezebel.
And just remember the 9-8. Is it 988 or 998?
Woo.